On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina.
All right, everybody, I'm here with Kyle Morris. Kyle, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate your time. Tell the listeners about yourself, if you would, please.
Thanks so much for having me, Chris. Like I said, I'm Kyle Morris. I'm currently working on the tactical side up in Virginia Beach at Little Creek. I'm working with Navy Special Operations. Prior to that, I was with the Miami Marlins. And prior to the Marlins, I spent a couple seasons with the Florida Panthers. For the Panthers, I was at IMG Academy, working with football, track, and baseball primarily. And prior to that, I was at LSU working as an intern with football and baseball. I got my master's from Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, and I got my undergrad from Palm Beach Atlantic University in West Palm.
I have a lot of stuff that I want to talk about because I'm a big NHL guy, big hockey fan, and I don't know many people that have hockey experience. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But before we do, just my first question for you. What do you believe in within strength and conditioning that others think you are crazy for believing?
Well, first, I don't think it really pertains to baseball because we don't really, do a whole lot of 1RM max testing or anything like that. But I truly believe that VBT is a great alternative to finding a 1RM. And, that's going to be primarily in the football and the other, just basic power sports that we're used to getting 1RMs. But I truly believe that if we work at a higher intensity, low enough velocity, that you're able to get better results from that testing. And the second thing I believe, which all of my buddies are going to call me crazy, is Olympic lifting for all sports. And that includes baseball players. So just taking, the time and confidence with those guys is going to really elicit some great results.
Okay, I want to get into both of those then. Let's do the Olympic lifts part first, and then we'll eventually circle back to velocity-based training. Okay, so the Olympic lifts portion, are you teaching full lifts, clean snatch to everybody? Are you basing it on what sport you're working with?
Yeah.
Talk to me about it.
Basing it on what sport you're with, definitely. Obviously, their time in the weight room with you, whether that be in the off season and the end season, as well as just their lifting experience from an overall standpoint. So, I mean, you know as well as anyone that you're going to be dealing with guys that have just set foot in the weight room for the first time at 16 to 17 years old, and you're going to get guys that are fresh out of college or out of high school where they come from a great deal of lifting experience. So teaching the basic progressions to those exercises and really just meeting the athlete where they are with a lifting background will really benefit them. And, I truly feel that anybody can learn them. It's just a matter of, the time that they're able to dedicate to it and where they are in their training and in their off season or in season. Certainly nothing crazy stuff. Like obviously, the full lifts I think are a little bit of a stretch, especially in the end season. And, if you have time in the off season, great. But teaching the basics, like a simple clean pull or any of those easy variations, I think are definitely doable.
Yeah, for me, anybody that's listened or knows me is I kind of live in the gray and just about everything. And I don't think there's for me, there's not many things that I'm so set on one side or I'm so set on the other. And I can see the value in all of this, right? And part of that is, like you said, is I've worked with a wide range of players who some have no lifting experience. Some come from high schools where they do a ton of Olympic lifts, or colleges where they do a ton of Olympic lifts, or even other organizations, right? And the higher up you go, the older guys are, the more they have their routines down. And some of those guys have come up through a system where they Olympic lifted, and then they come to you and it's like, I want to clean. And if you're like, no, we do not do cleans here, that guy's already out on your program, right?
Absolutely.
So for me, you have to at least understand the lifts. You have to be able to teach basic progressions, like you said. And then like, I think the thing that gets kind of lost is when you say like Olympic lifts, even for baseball players, it's like, oh, automatically assume full clean and snatch. It's like, well, no, you can do high pulls, right? You can do different variations of clean pulls and progress them to a catch if it's appropriate for them. It's all about which athlete you're working with, for me anyways. And I assume it's the same for you, right? Like it's like you said, you meet them where they are. You don't force your program. And it's the same thing with anything, right? Like some guys anatomically are not built to squat to depth, like, or maybe they are, that's a whole nother debate, but it's the same thing. Like meet the athlete where they're at, progress them accordingly, and then they'll be fine with just about any exercise for me.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, I think when you talk about Olympic lifting, you talk about people that don't have necessarily a great deal of experience with it. It's either one way or the other, where if they're thinking negatively, excuse me, I can't even talk, with it, in that they think it's, okay, we're going straight competition and that's what you do 80% of the time. Or it's CrossFit McGee over here where we're doing them, out the yin yang and cleans for, 21, 15, 9, whatever the reps, may be. And there's no like middle ground for people that hate it. Like that's just the two alternatives. Like, okay, you're either here or there. And, meeting, just like you said, finding a common ground with the guys and finding their experience level with it. Not saying that your whole program has to be dedicated primarily to the Olympic lifts, but having those movements in there isn't going to, hurt anybody. So.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Like I said, I'm in the gray in a lot of stuff. And I think for me, it just allows me to see both sides. And maybe that's why the podcast host thing is like, I just play the neutral and like, we just talk, right? Like I'm not so against Olympic lifts that I want to kick you off the podcast right now.
Well,
like,
thank you.
We just want to have, we just have this conversation, right? And then the other thing you brought up is velocity-based training. And I kind of want to tie this in too to like your previous stops, right? You've been in baseball, you've been in hockey, you're in the tactical setting, you've been in college. Like, does that change how you program with velocity-based training? Are you going off of like zones? Are you doing drop-off sets? Like, talk to me about velocity-based training in those different settings.
Yeah, and for the most part, it's going to be, right there in the same, where we're just going to be working on that, that mean threshold or that velo drop-off threshold. I think the biggest thing that is going to change from whether it be tactical to hockey to baseball is going to be the complexity of the exercise and the athlete that you're going to be working with. Currently at the tactical side, we have a lot of different guys with different training backgrounds and training goals. So you can have a guy that's been in the field for, 15 to 20 years plus, not necessarily going to put him, with a barbell and, have him perform a high velocity movement, versus you have guys that are, in between, that 25 to 35 range that just love to get after it and love to see something, that's going to be new and beneficial to them, and it gives them that automatic feedback. And so the complexity of the exercise there is going to be a little bit more than you would say at baseball or at hockey, where, primarily you're going to have the guys during the season and you don't necessarily know, when you're going to have access, on the road with the weight room, and stuff changes on the fly all the time. And so you're going to have to really pick your spots and be very selective with your exercises that you choose to do it with and the ones that you find beneficial.
Yeah, so I'm really curious about the tactical setting first, and then we can go into the NHL, and then we can talk baseball if you want. But so in terms of the tactical setting, 1, how many guys do you have? 2, like, what does your daily schedule look like? 3, like, how are you differentiating training? Really just anything that you want to talk about it, because I haven't had anybody on yet to talk tactical, and it is like a growing side of the field to me. And I've heard only good things. So I'm curious what your experience has been.
Yeah, well, it's been phenomenal I've been here since September. So that's, going on 6 months now. And, from my standpoint, we're going to see a group a week. We're kind of getting a ground floor group per week, and that's with COVID restrictions and everything like that. So they're going to go through, standard exercise and as well as other components of a performance staff, whether it begins with, region, nutrition, exercise science. And then in addition to that, we're going to see guys throughout the day. Sometimes we have them in teams, and then other times, guys can put, a schedule of, 1 to 3 guys if they want a little bit more of a specialized setting. So that's how it generally goes. We'll have a big old wave in the morning. So we'll say from 6:30 to 9:30, and then a similar wave at lunch that'll carry through the afternoon. COVID's obviously limiting us a little bit, but that's how the schedule is going so far. I got to say, from a scheduling standpoint, I tell everybody, that's worked with me at sports or, whether it be pro or college, that schedule is definitely spoiling me to where it's very standardized. And, it's very, 6:30 to 4, and, you're in, you're out. And, there's not a whole lot of leeway with that schedule, which it's something that I've had to get really familiar with, and definitely took me about 2 or 3 months to adjust to, because I was just kind of standing around after the day's over with, twiddling my thumbs, like, where are we going to have anybody else, any stragglers coming through like you're used to. And then as far as the population wise, like you just said, you're going to have such a wide range of guys, versus both age level as well as experience level, and as well as what they want out of the program. Some guys can use it, very similar to just a basic, gym, and they're coming in and doing a very generic exercise program. And then you're going to have other guys that really want their team to be, at a, higher performance level, and they're going to be, asking you for a lot more, which is great. With that, like I said, the guys that are going to be 25 to 35 are going to vary on their experience level, to where you can, manipulate their program around their goals. And then same with the older guys, is you have some guys that are just looking to, get back and press like an ultimate reset after just having such poor movement patterns over the course of, 15, 20, north of 20 years. And so you have such a wide variety, which has been nice to work with, such a wide variety of, lifting experience.
So what drew you to the tactical setting? Did you have a connection somewhere? Or was it just like, I want to work with the military? Like, what was the draw to the tactical?
Yeah, I've always, I'll be lying if I said it's never been, a draw. My dad, both granddads, my uncles, all served in the Navy. So it's definitely been a draw from the get-go, from really finding out this was a field. And, last year after, everything went down with baseball, and you're in the life of 1-year contracts after 1-year contracts. And after, getting a lot of experience, it's just, okay, do I really want to, drag this out for another couple of years? If every November, if I'm in hockey, every April, I'm holding my breath, wondering if I'm going to have to relocate. And, you're getting older, you have other goals that you want out of life in general. So it was very, it was a blessing in disguise when it did happen. And, this program I'm currently working with was just getting started, and, something opened up about 4 or 5 weeks after, crap went down with baseball. So, and, you end up getting furloughed and everything. So it was really a blessing in disguise to start that. And I've been, looking at the tactical setting for quite some time.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I've heard, like, I talked to a few people, obviously, through this, and they're like, I've heard the tactical setting is great. Like, it's super structured schedules, and like, they don't let you work long hours. And I don't even know what I would do with my time. It sounds like it's the same way for you. Like, you just kind of lost, like you said, we all have that 1 or 2 guys that kind of drag their feet in after the day's done. You've already cleaned the weight room. You're like, all right, we just got to do the logs and we leave. And then they're like, hey, can I lift? And you're like, ooh. It sounds like you don't have that going on there, which is obviously really cool. It gives you time to do other things. And that's the other thing, like you said, is, in baseball, it's hard sometimes. There's 1-year contracts, maybe 2 years if you're lucky. Maybe the next year you move up and you have to relocate. And then before you know it, you've been in the game 6-7 years, like you've never made it past AA. And then you're like, do I want to keep pursuing this? Do I want to do something else? Do I want to have a family? Do I want to settle and put some roots in? Like, there's very real life questions that come with this setting for us. And so obviously it worked out well for you, or at least it sounds like you're enjoying yourself there for sure.
Yeah. It's nice, man. In sports, we're kind of still learning on something called weekends now. So it's been fun so far for the past 5 months. So
That's awesome. So talk to me about the NHL, man. I love hockey. I grew up in Buffalo area, played a lot of hockey.
Okay,
And
Sabres fan.
no, actually, I'm a Flyers fan. That might be a different.
How does that work? Yeah.
I've got some family in Philly, so
Okay.
when I was a kid, we went to a Flyers game, and obviously the fan
Just
base
hooked.
there is insane. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is my kind of team. So that
You got a
might be a
sick
different
mascot
episode. Yeah, gritty is the best for sure. So talk to me about the NHL. How did you get connected there? What was it like there? I really don't know many people in the NHL, and it's everything I've heard is like it's hard to get in the NHL. You got to be connected, and like not saying I want to leave baseball, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually got my start. I started my master's at a school called Salisbury in Maryland. And I grew up actually in this area in Virginia Beach. I just spent, so much time in South Florida that it's really like a second home. So when I did that, I wrote the guy for the AHL. His name is Mark St. Mars, and that was with the Norfolk Admirals. And that time they were the AHL affiliate of the Lightning. So it's cool to see, those guys win. I think they had about 6 guys on their team that were on that team that ended up winning the Calder Cup that year. So every chance that I could, mainly every weekend. I mean, that's what's great about the AHL is, they're very busy on the weekends. And I would drive down from Salisbury, which is only about an hour and a half away, and, work hockey for as much as I could. So that would, be Thursdays to Sundays, and got to start that way. And I fell in love with it. Never played the sport growing up. Always liked it. And like most sports, always just love going to the games. And then when I started school at Nova, of course, that was in the lockout year for year one. And so that was kind of a wash. And then during the off season, in between my first and second year, I was, Nova, where it's located, is only about 10 minutes from the BB&T Center, which is where the Panthers play. This was 13 and 14. And so I wrote the strength coach at the time, Craig Salonwhite, who's now with the Sacramento Kings. And I would write him, like, I want to say maybe twice a week, 3 times a week. And I think he just realized that this kid's not going to stop. And so he, for training camp for the 13-14 season, he brought me in to help test. And then, more things, led down the road. And I was able to, join him at practices and really talk shop. And then, within a month into the season, I was able to kind of join as a full intern and do those duties throughout the course of the 13 and 14 season. He moved on to Winnipeg Jets, and I was like, oh crap, there's kind of my connection with the NHL, at least in the States, and not going to be competing in the Western Conference and only coming down, to Tampa and Florida for 2 times a year. So just kept connections and was introduced through buddies to the strength coach then, Tommy Powers, and kept a great relationship with him going. Came down and I was at IMG and helped with camps, for 2 years, and then and every training development camp that I could, and eventually they had an assistant position open up, and so luckily I was the guy he called and was able to join him for 2 years additionally. So it was a great time, and I wouldn't trade anything in the world for it. It was definitely such a great atmosphere to be a part of, and such a unique atmosphere training wise to be part of. So because you have guys from all over the world that are going to be coming in, whether it be in Europe and obviously in Canada and the States, with so many different backgrounds and so many different languages, which is funny too.
Okay, so before I comment on the NHL thing, I had no idea you went to Salisbury. So I
was
went
there
to
for a
Salisbury
year
as well.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I did my grad school at Salisbury from 2013 to 2015, something like that.
Okay, so I literally missed you by a year because I was there from 11 to 12, and then I got a GA back. I was freezing my tail off, and so I got a GA back in South Florida. So I was like, yeah, I'll see you.
Gotcha. Yeah, I wanted to go to University of Maryland in undergrad, and it didn't work out, and I stayed local. And I don't know why, but I was like, man, I'm kind of drawn to Maryland. Like, let me see if there's any schools there. And like, I don't know how it popped up, but Salisbury popped up. I'm like, let me apply. Got in, and then like as soon as I got there, I met Matt Nine in the rec gym, and he was like, hey, you want to be a volunteer with us? And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but sure. And then that was kind of what put me on my path to where I am, right? Like Matt is the man, and
he's great, man.
Yeah, he is, and he's just like, hey, go ahead, go to the fire and learn, and you're either gonna burn or you're gonna come out, a better coach. And like, I can't trade that for anything. So I had no idea you went there.
Yeah, I still talk to Matt about once or twice a year. He's awesome, man. Yeah, so
he's a great talk. You gotta set aside like an hour, because if you want a 5-minute talk, it's not gonna happen.
No, it's great, man. He's like a walking CEU too. Yeah.
Oh, I know. So. You go in his office and you're like, dude, I got 2 minutes. Like, I can't talk. And then like 25 minutes later, you're like, okay, I'm glad I missed what I was supposed to do for this.
Yeah.
Like, it's really awesome. But no, dude, that's really cool with the NHL. And I think part of it is just putting yourself in the right place at the right time and making the connections and networking with people. And just, when the opportunity presents itself to you, you have to be ready. And it sounds like you were ready. You were doing everything you could to get connections. And I'm jealous in the sense that you got to be around NHL guys. I tell everybody that NHL players are the true athletes on the planet, like the best athletes in the world. Like, their playing is like 30 to 60 seconds of moderate to high intensity, 2 to 3 minutes rest, and you do that for a 20-minute period, and then you have a 17-minute break, and you do that 3 rounds, and then 2 days later you do it again after traveling across the country. Like,
and they forget they're on skates too.
Yes, I was going to say, the thing that I tell people is, like, when you play other sports, baseball, soccer, football, whatever, you know how to run naturally. You may not know how to run well, but you know how to run, right? So once you get the implement in your hand, then you learn that skill. Hockey, you have to learn to skate, and then as soon as you put a stick in your hands, it changes the dynamics, and it's like, what am I doing here? And they just play at such a high speed. It's unbelievable.
It's insane. And like, I was underneath and in the weight room, locker room area for majority of the games, but we'd have some time, whether that be like later in the second or early in the third period to get out there. And I'm like 5'7", so I can't see crap, and I'm like in the back. But man, just like the speed is absolutely insane. I don't think people that have never touched the ice will ever understand how skilled and how fast these dudes are. It's unbelievable, and the physicality that comes along with it is insane. So yeah, I'm right there with you with them being the primary athletes.
Correct. Yeah, like the hitting, the speed, and you have to see it in person, man. Watching it on TV is one thing.
It doesn't do it justice.
Correct. Like, I got my wife into it, and I tried TV, and she's like, I just don't get it. And I'm like, all right, we're going to a game. Like, I'm going to teach you what's going on. She's like, this is way different. This is really cool. Like, I like this. I want to go more. And I'm like, yes. Yeah. Anytime you want to go to a hockey game, I will go.
Dude. And they're freaking warriors, dude. Like, it's insane what those guys will play through. And this is no knock to any other sport, but and I've never been in the NFL. I mean, college football is they play through a lot of stuff too, but the stuff that dudes will play through and play with is insane. And you wouldn't even know about it, and unless you were with them on the inside. But it's just like when you hear of injuries and they say, just lower body or just upper body, like the severity of it could be from a 1 to 10 range, and most of the time it's going to be north of 6. And it's just like you or me, any of us would be down and out for about 6 weeks. These guys are playing through like 18 plus minutes the next night. So yeah,
the thing is with hockey, it's like there's 3 injuries, right? Lower body, upper body, or concussion. That's it. That's all they give you. And then at the end of the season, it's like, this guy had a labrum surgery, he had a foot surgery, he had 2 knee surgeries, had a shoulder surgery, like he had his jaw realigned, and you're like, this guy played through all of this for months, and then was just like, I'll get it all taken care of at the end.
We had a guy, I don't even know if I'm not going to say a name, but he went down, it was second shift for this guy in a preseason game, went down to block a shot, and it hit him straight in the face, broke his jaw. And he went in there, and obviously ATCs, you have a dentist right there and an orthopedic right there, and they set up, surgery, emergency surgery will be, tomorrow morning, thinking that, okay, they don't really need to tell you that you're done for the night, and much less a preseason game. And so I'm walking through the locker room area. The weight room was attached to the locker room, and so I'm walking through, and this dude's putting his gear back on, and I'm like, dude, I think they told you you're done, right? And he's like, are you sure? And I like go back. I was like, here, let me get him just to say the word. And so I put the doctor in, and he still put his gear back on. It's late of the first period at this point, and he pulls him in, and he goes, "No, you're done. You're done for the night. Like, go home." And he's like, "Well, you can't get more broke." It's like his jaw like hanging out this way. I was like, yeah, I don't even know if we can put this on there, but it was incredible. I was like, this is an animal.
The hockey culture, man, is special. I've been talking a lot with one of our other strength coaches on our staff. He's got a little guy, and he's like, man, I really want him to play hockey. And I'm like, dude, I played 13 years. I grew up in Buffalo between, the seasonal depression with the cold and like the hockey culture. Like I am the way I am because of that. Like I don't get rattled about things. And like when we have hard challenges or heavy lifts, I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll do it. Like,
Yeah.
Cause that's just how you grew up. Like you didn't know any better. Like you're on the ice all the time. Like, hey, you got to go run a 5K today and then play a game tomorrow and then another. And you're like, okay, whatever. Like, So those guys are just, like you said, the best way to describe them is just warriors. And it's super unfortunate that the sport doesn't have as much love in the States as maybe football does. But up in Canada, they just bleed hockey, man. It's like, and I grew up in the Buffalo area, so I'm like an hour from the border. We'd go to Canada all the time to play, and the kids are born with skates. Like they are just skating from the time, like probably before they can walk, they got a pair of skates on.
You can skate, right?
Exactly. And it's like, all right, just get back out on the ice. Get out on the ice. 6 a.m. practice, whatever. 6 p.m. practice, just get out there. Like it's really a cool culture. And I've always told my wife, like, if we have children, I would like them to play hockey, and I'd like to live somewhere cold where we can set up a backyard rink and I can just kind of, check the kid into the snow or like teach him to skate and like just teach him the culture of hockey. And like it's hard because youth hockey is absurdly expensive.
Oh yeah.
It's a major
earlier and earlier too.
Yes. Right? You talk about sports specialization and like not getting kids to specialize, but like I was on the ice when first time I tried to skate, I was 2 and I failed. Like I fell right away, didn't want to do it. And then my younger brother started when he was 2 and I was 5, and he skated right to the crease. He became a goalie, and I didn't want to skate. And my dad was like, you got to go out there. Your brother's out there. You got to show him how to skate. And then from then on, I was playing hockey from 5 years old. I was playing travel hockey, like driving 3 hours to Canada for a weekend trip. And then you pay for hotels and gas and food. And it all adds up, and the equipment is really expensive. And
you're growing then too.
Yes. Oh yeah. Every year you need new gear. Well, my brother, like I said, was a goalie, so every year it's like he needs new gear. He needs new gear, and it's like he gets 1 year out of these pads and they're gone. And so it's super expensive. But yes, like the sports specialization thing is so real in youth hockey, and I think some people in the baseball culture don't necessarily know that just because they've come through the baseball culture so much and they haven't been exposed to hockey. But as crazy as the baseball youth culture is sometimes, like I would argue the hockey youth culture is worse. It's crazy how much money is spent and how much traveling. Like, hey, make your kid an NHL player. Like you go live with a host family when you're like 13 years old.
See you later. And it goes like, it's insane how crazy, going into like the early sports specialization, you have these crazy, these tournaments that are starting, earlier and earlier. Well, like the show is June to July, and then in juniors, like even lower levels, like Boston breakouts, like right around Labor Day. So it's like, where are you gonna, fit your off season when you have all these massive tournaments going, later in the spring or earlier in the fall? So yeah, it's getting more and more expensive too. Yeah.
When you were in the NHL, what did training look like? Are guys getting after it? Is it kind of like a based on travel schedule type thing? Like, are they as warrior-like in the weight room as they are on the ice?
Yeah, and with them, I'd say the major differences between that and baseball is in hockey, they want to do something every single day. And, we traditionally, like your off day, at least with us, how our schedule lined up was on Sunday, but whether it be for 15 minutes on, right after the game, or whether that be, at practice where we get them, earlier and they go for 25 to 30, they would like to do something every single day. And with the training, it's a lot more of the, obviously depending on, how many games you're playing, you're not going to do the same training, at game 60 to 82 that you would at preseason to 25. But for a general, if it's a practice day and you got some time in between the next day, it's going to be a lot more of the circuit or conditioning based type of a workout. And, post game, it's going to be a lot more of, your strength based type training. But the guys, they love to get after it. And for the most part, you're going to have a wide variety of, where guys are from and what they're familiar with. So for the most part, you give them options. You're either going to be, doing a higher complexity lift, or you're going to be, doing a lower complexity lift. And with that, we try to break down, time of ice, depending on, the volume that players are going to go. We traditionally kept it 15 and below, 15 to 18, and then anything north of 18, obviously you're going to be doing your lower intensity. And then, the veterans, they're obviously going to know, what their lower routine is going to be like. If they're going to add, anything in there that they've done for, the past 8 to 12 years, you're going to allow, just like in baseball, just or any pro sport. But that's generally how you're going to break it down, or how we broke it down, with exercise selection, and then the intensity and the volumes of the lift dictated by the time of ice, and obviously where you are at the point of the season.
Yeah, you say they train like a circuit training or a metabolic type thing before a game. And I can see it, again, going back to the hockey culture, like doing a circuit that would probably crush most people, and then being like, all right, time to go play. Like
Time for practice.
Yeah, right. So kind of circling back, like full circle here to velocity-based training. Were you using velocity-based training in the NHL with those guys to kind of regulate what was going on?
Yeah. And you really have to pick your points, and you're going to have some guys at first where it's really going to be, they're going to kind of be turned off to it, depending on, where they are in their careers. But the schedule, for the most part, especially when you're at home, is very regulated and very predictable. Unlike baseball, where you're going to have rainouts, you're going to have, different times and different guys coming in to the stadium, and you don't know what at least on the minor league level, you have no idea of what you're going to find in that weight room, or what access you're going to have to a different weight room. So we used it as much as we could. And he said the complexity of exercises would always change. So whether it be, a guy who is going to be on like a high velocity program, or, going to be of a gen strength program, we kind of dictated those velocities from our jump assessments. And that's another thing with hockey, is that guys, and I think baseball with the CBA, I mean, that, CBA really, really protects the baseball players a lot, and gives them a lot more freedom to go about their lifting protocols and their training protocols. But with hockey, guys are very open to our jump testing assessments, or any assessments that we're really going to be doing. And, those took, all of 20 to 30 seconds, and we did them twice a month. So it's really not that big of a stretch. But again, I was really grateful that they were, willing and able to do so. And we were able to kind of differentiate programs based upon those assessments that we did. So you're either, I always called it, you're either a ground guy or a flight guy. And so guys that, spend a little bit too much time on the ground are obviously going to get a little bit more of a high velocity lift, and will have a high velocity movement for him, versus the guys, and you're going to know who they are, generally just by watching them on ice too, are they going to need a little bit more of a strength base. And so we're going to, have a different exercise where we can use it at a lower velocity and really get an accelerated strength or strength speed, whatever we are at that point in the season.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you saw any correlation between your force plate assessment, your jump assessment, and like how they played on the ice. Like,
yeah.
You have your bruisers on the ice. Like, are they more ground?
Hey, they're going away, man.
I know.
I know, it's been taken out.
I know. It's a little different game now. It's very skilled. It's very, very skilled.
So different, man. That really, I mean, in 04 and 05, when they took away took away that 2-line pass, and really opened up the zones and the trapezoid. I mean, all the rules and the rule changes that went in after that lockout year, that really just increased the speed and skill of the game. And the bruisers are kind of I mean, just like the Netflix documentary, the Last of the Enforcers, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, slowly that's going, sadly that's going away from the game. But yeah, sorry to cut you off, but this is your question of the speed. You're really able to see a lot of correlation with guys in there. And we're not running any research studies. We just want to make sure that we're giving them the most beneficial training program. But we're able to see a lot of the carryover from if a guy is slow getting off the ground, he traditionally is going to be a little bit slower on ice, versus if a guy is off speed, he's going to be very, very fast coming off the ground on our jump assessments. And then we have guys that we know like that are going to be 23 and younger, 24 and younger, and don't have great lifting backgrounds, where we just want to get his baseline numbers, and we know that we are going to need him on more of a hypertrophy program, regardless of his testing, because he's getting pushed off the puck and he's a very little dude going into the corners. They're battling for pucks. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it, was the eye test, and we know, what guys needed based upon, their body type and their play style. But for the supplementary days where we're going to have a little bit more time, we really try to emphasize, our force plate testing and that VBT with them, because we had the time to do so, and they were really willing and able to do it too, and had our trust with it.
Yeah, I think that's really cool that they were so bought into wanting to do it, and like I'm sure they were looking at the results, and like it makes it easier for you to justify your program to them. Like, hey, you're slower on the plates and you're slower on the ice. Like, if we improve these numbers, we'll probably see you improve your speed on the ice, which, let's be honest, everybody wants to be faster on the ice, right? Like, nobody's training to be like, oof, I got to slow down on the ice. Like, I want to be faster. Or like you said, the young guys putting muscle on, like, hey, you're getting bumped off the puck. Like, this is an easy fix. We can help you. Like, oh, okay, I'm sold. So like, it's pretty cool that they were bought in, and there's tangible changes that you can see through your program, which creates another layer of buy-in. And when new guys come to the team, they see other guys following your program, and it kind of builds on itself, right? So that's cool to hear that they're all in on it.
Yeah, and like, I mean, when you go and explain it to them, the reasoning why, like you just said, and when they understand the why, that literally nothing changes. It's just we're giving a reading, and it's letting that dictate the load versus what you're guesstimating. And besides that, literally nothing changes. And that was able, when they were able to see the simplicity of it, that was really, getting more buy-in once they saw that.
Yeah, like I said, personally, I love hockey. It warms my heart that they get after it, and they're as good in the weight room as they are on the ice. And again, I'm not trying to leave baseball anytime soon, but it is cool to have a chance to talk to somebody that has some hockey experience, just because it is a game that I've always loved my whole life. And sometimes in the baseball setting, I don't get the chance to talk hockey with people because they just don't get it. And I'm like, I need somebody to talk hockey with. So personally, selfishly, thank you for that.
All right, everybody, that concludes this episode with Kyle. I hope you enjoyed this one. This is going to be part one of a two-part with him. In part two, we'll get into a little bit of, what makes strength coaches successful, advice for strength coaches, continuing education, things like that. But I thought this was a good spot to cut this one off. Just hearing about his experiences in other settings, including professional hockey, selfishly, was awesome for me. But as well in the tactical setting, and just how those career choices kind of compare and contrast with professional baseball. In addition to the velocity-based training talk that we had, I thought that was really good as well, and I hope you took away a whole bunch from this one. 3 things that I took from Kyle in this episode: meet athletes where they are at and progress accordingly, build yourself a large network, and you never know what setting will actually be the best fit for you, so don't be afraid to try other things. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.